An often overlooked area of musician focal dystonia is the compatibility between the musician and the instrument. Usually we pick the instrument when we are young due to its sound or due to its shape, to its look, and then we spend years and years practicing on it. What can occur is the physical domain of that instrument may not be matching our physical attributes. So for example, someone with very small hands may not be in a really good position to play an instrument requiring large hands. It's an area that created problem for me. It was the years playing the tenor sax where the D key was located. I have a short ring finger. Usually the ring finger is longer than the index, so the fingers are lined more this way. Myself, this one shorter. So I always had to try to reach for that D key. Later on, when I switched to the alto and found an alto which was designed for smaller hands with shorter fingers, I was able to do the physical retraining in a way that removed all those parasitic movements coming from that short D finger. It can be the same thing with an instrument requiring a lot of force to play. So, for example, a stand-up bass may need more physical strength than an electric guitar with very thin gauge strings. So someone with very thin fingers that don't have much strength could be wearing himself out and then creating movement problems, trying to overcome the natural finger movements because of the strength issue to be able to play that instrument. And that's something that really came to light is when I started to see a lot of musicians having problems with their hands and then starting to see what is the relationship to the instrument, to the physical attributes. One big area in overcoming the focal dystonia is to not have to fight the instrument. So for example, with a woodwind like the saxophone, I realized that playing a smaller mouthpiece with softer reeds was less of a battle. So it means if I was less battling from the mouth, I didn't feel so much resistance in producing a sound which was moving to my hands. As I was fighting the top, I was fighting at the bottom. Some people use keyboards with no weights on the keys to relearn how to use their hands if you're a piano player. There is a really great video from a piano player online which talks about using one of those Apple Mac keyboard with the very light white keys where you barely touch them. She was mentioning the use of using a computer keyboard as a retraining aid because you could just control the motion of your finger on the keyboard without having to press or do almost any physical movement. As a woodwind player, I also use the niwi, like the Akai iwi, which doesn't have any moving part. So then the only movements I was doing were the movement to just touch the keys, which didn't require any strength. So I could see how much tension I had in different fingers and starting to relax my hands. So again, the big thing is start to really look into how much are you fighting your instrument. Is there a way that you can play the instrument that you wish to play in a way that is easier? And it's to forget all the macho thing. I'm playing a big mouthpiece, I'm playing big reed, I'm playing big strings, I'm trying to get that big thick sound and so on. Just all of that stuff. All we care about is playing that instrument in the easiest manner with the less physical strength and fight required. By being able to play the instrument in a much easier way, then we can concentrate on a very, very light touch. Once we can have a very light touch, we can make very, very small movement. In making small movement, we can become aware of all of the movements in the other muscle that occurs at the same time. So for example, if I do it on my saxophone, if the keys are very light and I'm not fighting the mouthpiece, I can barely move my fingers and start to feel even the spring pushing back against my finger. And then become very aware of where I'm starting to get the parasitic movements and where the hand wants to clamp down. It's the same on a guitar. With very light action, you can barely touch the strings. Same thing if you're playing on one of those very lightweight keyboard, you can just barely touch and then feel what's happening in your hands. Becoming aware of those very small movements is what I found one of the key to musician focal dystonia recovery. So stop fighting the instrument. As you recover, later on, you can maybe go back to a heavier setup if you enjoy the sound in a better way. But for now, the main focus is to remove every layers of fight, of difficulties, of forces between you and producing a sound out of that instrument.